guys remember Lorna, eh? Yous guys remember Lorna, eh? She was one of them, eh? I think you had a crush on her, Ricky said in his too loud voice. She was one of them, eh? She was a night floater. Here we go again, Matt said. Being 15 really sucked back in the 1970s. You were too old for kid stuff, but not quite old enough to get a job, other than maybe cutting grass. And you were also not quite old enough to drive legally. Of course, we all knew how to drive, but that's another story. So I spent the summers scrounging around for odd jobs and money, while most nights were spent sleeping out in some guy's backyard. Not that we stayed the tent, but before we could take off, we had to give the old people time to fall asleep. Then we could sneak out into the night. And the lull proved an excellent time for both bullshit and storytelling. Let's just say storytelling. Did you know she lived in that old shack at the top of Kerr Street? The one on the other side of the train tracks? Yeah, we know, Matt said in a bored tone of voice. Did you know that she killed her grandparents? That she tore out their throats with her teeth? Yeah, Matt said, yawning. Everybody knows that she killed him. Did you know that she is under constant observation in her padded cell, and that they have footage of her detaching her head from her body, that they have footage of it floating around the cell? Yeah, you keep telling us that, but we don't believe you. Ricky snickered at that, while Ian appeared to be asleep. Did you know she escaped from the asylum? What? It was Ricky who bellowed, so loud we all shushed him, lest he wake up the old people. She escaped. Matt wasn't letting me away with that one. How do you know she escaped? He hissed. There's been nothing about it on the news. Of course not, I answered him quietly. Do you think they're going to admit a homicidal maniac has escaped and they don't know where she is? A homicidal maniac and a night floater to boot? Ah, you and your night floaters, Ricky said with disgust. But how do you know she's escaped? Matt was persistent, if nothing else. 'Cause she's back at the shack, I answered quietly. You saw her? Matt clearly didn't believe me. No, I haven't seen her, I said. But there have been lights on in the shack the last 2 nights, and there hasn't been any lights on in there for the past year. That doesn't mean it's her, Matt scoffed. Yeah? You want to go look? I had 'em now. No way could they argue or disbelieve me if they weren't willing to go look. And so we did. We approached the shack by an indirect route, crossing the train tracks. The shack was on the north side of the tracks. Crossing the train tracks down by the train bridge, which was about 200 or 300 yards east of it. Ian bitched the whole time. He was kind of a wimpy guy, tied to his parents' apron strings, but he had begged us, and begged his parents, to be allowed to sleep out with us. And now all he did was whine and want to hide in the tent. What if the police catch us? He whined. Then we'll go to jail, Ricky snarled before adding, we'll go to jail for life. I could see he was getting a bit tired of Master Ian. Oh, my parents would kill me, Ian continued whining. And I couldn't help thinking, not if Ricky kills you first. We walked through some trees, then along a rutted trail until we came within sight of the shack, which stood at the edge of the woods, just feet from the train tracks and just feet from busy Kerr Street. It was gray and weather-beaten and looked like it was in danger of falling down. But there was a light in the window. "She's home," I said. "Yeah, but how do you know it's her?" Matt hissed. Like I said, the guy was persistent. "Well, there's one way to find out," I said. "How?" "Walk up to the door and knock." Oh, don't do that," Ian bawled. He sounded like he was about to burst into tears. "There's no need to knock, boys. I'm right here." I almost had a heart attack and an accident in my pants at the same time. It was a female voice. A female voice that sounded vaguely familiar. A female voice from somewhere in the darkness. "Where are you?" I said, my voice little more than a whisper. No answer. But instead, a barefoot woman stepped out of the shadows. She wore a long, hippie dress, the kind Lorna used to wear. And she didn't have a head. No head! No head! It was a night floater! Night floaters, or floaters, were a paranormal phenomena afflicting our town. The name referred to the ability of certain individuals to detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies, the heads then being able to fly or float at will. They were said to attack unsuspecting victims, biting them and sometimes even killing them, and they could apparently animate their bodies, as Lorna was doing now, animate their bodies minus their heads. "Seen what you came for, boys?" said the mocking voice, which certainly wasn't coming from the headless body. And I recognized it, for it was Lorna. It was her voice. We heard peals of mocking laughter, and then she attacked. Lorna's headless body lurched forward and wrapped two elongated arms around Ian, who began to scream. At the same instant, Lorna's head came out of the darkness, shrieking like a banshee, floating at eye level and making straight for me. "Run!" I screamed, and we all scattered into the night, each of us going in a different direction. It was every man for himself. I didn't see the other dudes during that nightmare flight through the benighted woods, expecting any second to have Lorna's floating head sink her yellow teeth into the soft flesh of one of my ears, or to have her headless body tackle me from behind and bring me to the ground. Bring me to the ground in order to strangle me. I got back to the tent first, where I collapsed onto my sleeping bag. My chest heaved, and I was afraid I was going to barf. Matt arrived to sprawl, gasping for breath, followed by Ricky, too winded to talk, unable to talk for the first time in his life. We put on an organ concert for several minutes. Until we finally regained the power of speech and faced a new problem. It was Matt who said it. "Where's Ian?" I thought he was with you," I finally managed to choke out. "I thought he was with you," Matt said. "Oh, shit," Ricky squealed. "She's got him! That thing! That Lorna! She's gonna kill him!" "We're gonna have to go back for him," I said. Although I didn't want to. "Oh, shit!" But in the end, we didn't have to go back. For from outside the tent, we heard Lorna's mocking voice. Forget something, boys? And then Ian came into the tent. Oh, my sense of relief was palatable until I realized Ian no longer had a head. He didn't have a head. No head! And then they both attacked. And we woke up the old people with our screaming. The moral of the story? Stay in the tent. Just stay in the tent. Tell scary stories or something. Be good. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs in 2022. Till midnight. Cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pixhere, that's PX here, while the music was the classic Ghost Processional by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod. Thank you for listening.